Alright, so what's going on, guys? It is your boy, the combat consultant, of course, the soundboard guy, Jacob Koopman. This is Gloves Up, and we have a little bit of news to discuss today. The winner of Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury is going to be ranked by the WBC at cruiserweight. Did I not call this at the beginning? I think it was my predictions for where influencer boxing is going. One of those bigger organizations for boxing is going to take notice, and now it's not a belt, but it is a ranking for the winner of this fight. Now, this article and a lot of other articles that I've read go on to kind of pass judgment on this and call this decision a little bit idiotic on WBC's part. Some would say that it's more of a publicity pick, but I'm going to give my genuine reaction to this. I've read it over once. We're going to read it over again this video, and I'm just going to go ahead and give my take, my general honest opinion on all of this. So obviously they're fighting February 26th. I put out a community poll. I'm going to be doing a live fight companion for that, so that should be a fun time. But let's get into the article. Jake Paul or Tommy Fury will soon be ranked at cruiserweight by the WBC as the sanctioning body has announced they will reward the winner of the February 26th fight. Jake has dedication and respect to the sport, and the WBC will not tolerate discrimination against anyone. He deserves the opportunities that any other boxer has, the organization said in their statement. Now, this is the first quote that a lot of people took issue with. Nobody believes that Jake Paul is facing discrimination in the boxing world. I think you could argue that Jake actually has faced a fair bit of discrimination. A lot of boxers at first were writing him off. And listen, I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with earning your spot within a sport. I think that's what a lot of boxers have to do in terms of their amateur experience, right? So if Jake's going to sidestep that and go through big money fights, he's going to have to deal with the agita that people that have put their time in the sport would give him. I don't think that's a bad thing. But that is kind of in the same vein of what these guys are talking, where the WBC is talking about here. A lot of guys feel Jake Paul is not a respectable, legitimate boxer. And even though he has the professional experience, it's been against guys who haven't been in boxing. I understand that, and I could actually sympathize with that a little bit. I almost feel like it's almost like, what do you want Jake Paul to do? Does it make sense for a guy with his star power to be going up against amateur guys that nobody's ever heard of? I understand, listen, that's the predicated way that we do this in boxing, is we have guys go up against the amateurs and then they build their way up, they go pro, maybe they go to the Olympics, but Jake Paul is not Olympic level. Jake Paul should not be facing amateur fighters, because why would he? There's no money in that. There's no fame, no publicity in that. Like we've already established in past videos, we are in a new era of boxing, and this is influencer boxing. Amateur fighting, I mean, I work in amateur fighting in commentary and interviewing. It is a thankless sport to begin with if you're in the pros. So if Jake Paul found another way around it and the WBC wants to rank him, I don't see a problem with that. Let's continue. He demonstrated punching power and improved skills as well as a solid chin. Tommy Fury represents a clear challenge to Paul. I don't believe so. In a battle of two undefeated professional boxers. Jake is enrolled in VADA testing clean boxing program, yet another strong reason to support his stance as a boxer. I know that we talked about the fact that guys like Tommy Fury kind of fold to YouTube boxers, to where you get a guy in there and you could say, oh yeah, this guy's undefeated. He's 8-0. When in reality, if you look at his resume, there's no real competition on there. But Jake, for whatever you want to say, has stepped through the fire, right? He's fought dangerous dudes. Now, at the beginning, they didn't pose as much of a threat, but by the end, he's been racking up tougher and tougher competition. He's been going through that kind of roadmap that we've talked about. And so, yeah, they're 100% right. He's shown to us not only that he has a dedication to the sport, but also that he has certain X factors about him, like his power. And sure, there are things to work on. But if you take into consideration the fact that what Jake has done is basically made his own amateur path to the pros, then that's been his experience. And he's gotten better every single time he's stepped out there. He's faced better and better competition. Sure, it's not, again, your typical average boxers, but in this new age, can you really say that that matters? And this is kind of where a little bit of the bias comes in. And after this, it's basically just an opinion piece, which I don't know. I mean, I thought this was going to be just straight news, but apparently SB Nation or badlefthook.com, which is a podcast, they're not exactly the most unbiased source in the world. Paul 6-0, 4 knockouts, and Fury 8-0, 4 knockouts have not faced much by the way of serious professional competition. Again, that's just not true. It's not professional boxers, but he's faced professional fighters, right? And say what you want, Ben Askren, retired, bad hip. If you don't want to count him, fine, but he was a professional fighter. Then you have Tyron Woodley twice. He's a professional fighter at the upper echelon of MMA. You have Anderson Silva, again, old, but one of the greatest fighters of all time. So to say that he's not facing serious professional competition, I don't necessarily agree with that. And Anderson Silva, before he fought Jake, had some fantastic knockouts on his resume. He got into pro boxing before fighting Jake. So let's not say that he hasn't faced serious professional competition. And after February 26th, the truth is that they still won't have. Now, Tommy Fury, I thought, wasn't exactly a challenge to Jake. But again, if we're going to use the same logic that we applied to Jake, to Tommy Fury, he is a pro. Tommy is a pro boxer. So these guys, it's sad to see, but they're kind of falling into the same psychology that everyone else applies to these guys, and it's that if they don't fight a professional boxer immediately, then they're not real pros. I can't stand this type of thinking, especially when a lot of people want to group Jake Paul, KSI in with pros. For now, they're paving their own ways. I don't see a problem with that. But if we want to be fully honest, the WBC keep a top 40 at cruiserweight. And I assure you that, just to pick two names, Timur Shakulin, I don't know if I'm saying that correct, and Adrian Taylor, number 29 and number 38 respectively, amongst others, also haven't been exactly facing top opposition. To be within range to receive a title shot, a fighter must be ranked in the top 15. So basically, this is a publicity play by the WBC, and it is hilarious that the organization would use the word discrimination with regards to Jake Paul or Tommy Fury for that matter. At the end of the day, like I said before, it is what it is. But man, I bet Serdar Avicii or Leonard Perez or I aforementioned Shakulin or Nika. See, I like that's also kind of the other side of the coin is like Jake Paul going into the WBC rankings. Do you know how much good this does for the sport? I don't know. I mean, again, I'm much more of an MMA guy and then an influencer boxing guy, but this is boxing's problem. Out of all the names I just said, I only really know who Anthony Taylor is. This guy goes on to say that they're all going to be pissed about the news. Paul versus Fury will be fought at 185 pounds catch weight, which is 15 pounds shy of the cruiserweight limit and 10 north of the light heavyweight limit. There will also be an actual WBC cruiserweight world title fight on the card. So yeah, I don't understand the bias. Okay, I think it's time that we start to recognize these athletes as actual boxers. They've put in their time. I mean, the guys at the upper echelons have. Jake, KSI, they've gotten into the ring, and nobody's saying that they have to be fighting Canelo. I know Jake says, oh yeah, I want to be fighting Canelo, but at some point, do I think that Jake is actually going to be fighting Canelo? Absolutely not. But that's part of the showmanship of the sport. That's something that professional boxing seriously lacks. The reason I like influencer boxing so much is because it combines the great sport of boxing with the entertainment of MMA. And it mixes in the storylines that only entertainment personalities can provide. Why, oh why are these people still, it's like elitist boxing fans, man. I honestly think this is a huge net positive for the sport of boxing. Do I know where Jake Paul goes next after he gets ranked? Again, there is that thing where he can't just keep fighting entertainers forever. If he's going to get into the WBC rankings, he's going to have to fight other boxers. But I'd argue to say that at that point, I think Paul's star draw potential will be able to kind of carry him through fighting some of the lesser known guys at cruiserweight. But that's been my reaction for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the subscribe, like, notification, but all that stuff, man. Like it up, subscribe, and turn on that notifications bell because we're going to be uploading tons of stuff moving forward. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.